Guys, everyone in crypto is talking about this, and we got to talk about it. There could be a huge insider trading scandal involving the White House because it seems like the person who was doing the insider scandal, which does actually look to be a Satoshi era Bitcoin whale, knew that the Trump tariff announcement was coming. Now, we went down massively yesterday. We've started to recover, obviously, but we're still kind of like down in the dumps at 111, 112K at the time of recording this video. But obviously, we dumped all the way down to 102, and it seems to have gotten sniped. Now, this Satoshi Arrowell, it's not like he took the shorts right before, but he doubled down right before. In fact, 30 minutes before the Trump announcement. Now, we've been going down steadily to about 117K on Friday, Thursday and Friday. But Trump did actually make the announcement sometime early afternoon. And as a result of that, we basically dumped directly to like 105, some places even 102. And that's not everything. I mean, it's not just Bitcoin went down by like almost 20%. Some of the altcoins went down like 60, 70, 80%. Now, a lot of them have actually bounced back significantly since then. So that was another chance for people to actually make money. But if someone knew about this specific news that was going to come, they could have made a lot of money. And some people are complaining that there needs to be a market maker for things to go down that much. Well, we'll discuss that later, but there is one that could possibly make it, and that it's the biggest one out there. Now, there are people calling for an investigation because the liquidation was massive, even bigger than the FTX liquidation. The Crypto.com CEO calls for probe into exchanges after $20 billion in liquidation. So he's not happy about it. He's probably lost a lot of money and got wrecked. Crypto CEO Chris Marszalek has urged regulators to probe exchanges after $20 billion in liquidations, far outpacing any previous market crash, including FTX. But unlike FTX, it didn't continue going down. However, we know that's not likely, especially if it does involve the White House, because Trump controls the DOJ, and the DOJ is not going to basically investigate anything with Trump involved. Obviously, right now, it's just kind of like a way for him to actually make money. So, getting that out of the way, obviously, what actually happened? Well, obviously, Trump got really mad at China because they imposed export controls on rare earths. They're like he's like they're breaking a deal, but he did also import he did actually like impose worldwide tariffs and especially stringent ones on China. So basically, saying that they shouldn't respond or wouldn't respond by breaking some rules or something, that's kind of naive. They were always going to do this as a response to your tariffs. And obviously, where do they actually hold power? The rare earths metals. Now, the U.S. can probably scale up production of the rare earths, but it does take time, and we need them right now. So Trump is obviously hitting them with 100% more tariffs starting November 1st, unless the two sides can make a deal. And obviously, that plummeted the stock market a lot. Now, fortunately, gas also plummeted, so that should actually help with costs a little bit. But inflation is expected to go up if the deal actually comes into place. Now, the deal doesn't have actually come into place until November 1st, so you really won't see the effects until the December report. And since they're actually meeting in a few weeks, they could just avoid this entire thing. But I think we'll have to roll back some of the tariffs that we actually have on China in order for them to get out of this rare earth basically export exemption, because our military equipment actually does need it. So it's going to be a lot of back and forth. Nonetheless, that was the trigger that immediately caused the market to drop a huge amount, especially the altcoins. Now, what did this whale do? He took several hundred million in leverage shorts in the days leading up to this, but much, much more suspiciously. Now, if it ended just at that, I don't think anyone would be suspicious. You were piling up some shorts for a couple of days as Bitcoin got higher and higher. No one would be suspicious of that. A lot of people would actually do that. However, he doubled down. He literally doubled his leverage shorts. 30 minutes before Donald Trump made the decision, he sold some of his Bitcoin and WFI to actually make this leverage short. So people are saying he must have known that this was going to happen. Now, he is a Satoshi era whale. So some of these theories, he's Eric Trump or Baron Trump, are probably not true, because Pretty sure Eric Trump and Barron Trump weren't Satoshi era whales. Are they just borrowing a wallet? Did they acquire a wallet from someone else? Possibly, but I really wouldn't bank on that. This might be a Satoshi era whale who is a friend of Donald Trump. I mean, he's got a lot of people in his orbit that he could possibly tell. But this has to be like someone that actually knew that he was going to make this tariff move. Because just doubling down on like $500 million worth of leveraged shorts 30 minutes before Donald Trump makes his announcement is very, very suspicious. And I think it might be someone that's affiliated with WLFI. Like I said, don't think it's actually Barron and Eric because the address is from a Satoshi era whale, and I'm pretty sure they're not Satoshi era whales, especially Barron. He's not really old enough to be a Satoshi era whale. I don't think Trump himself is a Satoshi era whale, or Eric or Don Jr. Don't think they were actually in that early, but they have a lot of connections with a lot of people, and they might be getting a slice of the action. And of course, what about the market maker? Well, there's Crypto.com itself, but I don't think the guy would be calling for an investigation if he was the one that was doing this. So that doesn't actually make any real sense. But the market maker could actually be Binance and CZ. And let me explain that. Now, he's obviously, CZ is like somewhat connected with Trump because he's been asking for a pardon. And the Trump administration is actually considering a pardon. It's also been rumored that CZ is helping WLFI, or World Liberty Financial, Trump's crypto company, create their own DEX or their own perps trading platform. So there is business connections there. So he could definitely play the part of market maker and facilitate this kind of big drop on Bitcoin and altcoins. And that would be a perfect setup for a drop and then a rebound. Of course, because the tariff announcement was made, the rebound isn't going to be nearly as big as the drop. So that's why we're still in the conundrums. So there's a lot of theories going around, some of them even much, much crazier than what I've explained. But this is kind of like the baseline theory that what people are actually thinking about. Like, CZ was actually the person, was actually the market maker that's kind of underwriting this. Trump told someone the information a little bit beforehand. They double down and everyone gets a piece of the pie. Wouldn't be that surprising to me, considering that he's essentially made $5 billion off of crypto since he's been president. So why not make a little bit more off of shorts? And the market, I believe, will actually rise back up. I do think we'll survive this one. However, if we have a couple more knocks, we might not survive if we have a couple more knocks. So hopefully this does not happen again, because if it does, we could definitely be in a lot of trouble. Every time this actually happens, people lose a little bit more faith in crypto. I do hope there is an investigation, like the Crypto.com CEO is calling for, but I highly doubt it because of who controls the DOJ and all the what used to be the enforcement departments, but the enforcement departments basically don't exist anymore. So yeah. So basically, the CEO of Crypto.com on X urged regulators, which are more or less non-existent under Paul Atkins, to conduct a thorough review of fairness of practices, asking whether trading platforms that slow down, misprice assets, or fail to maintain proper anti-manipulation compliance controls during the crash. Now, I don't think they're really going to look at Binance if that was indeed the market maker. There were a lot of exchanges that refused to let people buy at really low prices, or there were technical difficulties. That is actually to be expected because that really happens every time, especially to centralized exchanges, because they can't handle the volume. Remember, when something like this happens, the amount of people trying to access the exchange is 5 or 10 times what it usually is, and they can't handle that extra capacity. They don't have that capacity just sitting around because it costs money to house that capacity around, and they're not going to keep capacity around that they don't use like 99.9% of the time. That's generally how that works. So yeah, they're really not going to look at that. But so like you're not really going to be able to complain that Coinbase or Kraken or whatever actually slowed down and wouldn't let you actually buy assets. Get on those DEXs and buy those assets if you really want the assets during that time. But he wants regulators to look to see if any manipulation occurred. Binance isn't really based in the US, so I doubt the regulators would be able to do anything about that. And I think the short happened at Hyperliquid, so you should definitely take a look at Hyperliquid, but it is decentralized, so that might be hard. So data from Coinbase shows that Hyperliquid led all exchanges in liquidations, recording 10.31 billion in wiped out positions. It was followed by Bybit with 4.65 billion and Binance with 2.41 billion. What does this tell you? This means that like the reason that we dropped were because of perpetual leverage perps. And that's to be expected because leverage perps are basically evil to crypto, and they will actually spur these kind of liquidations. And I do believe that a lot of the altcoin buyers are actually leverage perps buyers now, and that's one of the things that's keeping us from going up too much. But it is the leverage perps that got completely wiped, and that's why we actually went down so much. So like, I don't really think you're going to be able to really find out too much by looking at like these dexes or these decentralized perps. Hopefully, something can actually be done, but I kind of doubt it. The thing is, there's like also like a token depeg that triggered user liquidations. In an announcement, Binance confirmed a price depeg incident involving Athena's USDE. So Athena might be in some trouble. BN Sol and WBETH also led to forced liquidations for some users. The exchange said it's reviewing the affected accounts and appropriate compensation measures. So like if you were on Binance and you got liquidated because of USDE, BN Sol, and WBETH, you'll probably get some of your money back. But the thing is, the trigger for this was Trump actually announcing the 100% tariffs on China. Someone obviously knew about it, probably because the Trump administration or Trump himself told him. CZ might have been in on it because he's kind of like close to the Trump circles right now, asking for a pardon and rumored to be helping Trump open up a perp exchange. And he definitely has the market maker power to actually make this happen. We don't really know exactly who it is, or who the big whale is, because obviously we don't really know who holds that crypto address. I highly doubt there's going to be any DOJ investigation into it, but I definitely think there was a massive amount of insider trading. Now, if you have the president himself manipulating this stuff, it's like on a whole other level than any like senator or anything. Like, the senators have inside information on specific companies, and although illegal, they do use that insider information to trade. But the president is essentially creating these events by himself, unilaterally, without anyone else, and then telling his buddies or maybe himself to actually trade. So this is on a whole new level, but I highly doubt the DOJ is really going to prosecute or examine this because there's too many moving parts to it. You can't really examine Binance. It's not really within U.S. jurisdiction. If it has anything to do with Trump or his allies or like his friends or anything, the DOJ is obviously going to immediately shut it down or do like a half-hearted investigation and tell you to stay away from the juicy stuff. So take what you will from it. I definitely think there was some like insider trading, and I definitely think the announcement was what triggered the giant slide. And maybe CZ and other exchanges are involved in it. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.